Hey, what's up, everybody? Again, this is Jason Chrisman. We have our co-host, John Oitice. Today, we're going to be going into real estate, especially Section 8, where to buy, what you're looking for, price points, the whole 9 yards in Section 8, what states to buy in, the types of properties, the lot sizes, exactly what you need to look for. Before we get started in that, I'm going to introduce my co-host, John Oitice. John, say what's up.
What's going on, guys? How are you? Good morning.
All right. So as we all know, Johnny is a teacher in the Investor Circle, which is our group. Anybody needs any information on that, I always put a link at the end of this video. Well, the server address at the end of this window. I can't put links in this, but that's the way we got to do it. So let's get into a little bit of real estate. I currently have 41 properties right now. Johnny, you have 19, I believe, 19 doors.
18. I just sold one in Mississippi. I just sold a single family, so I have 18 now.
Okay, 18 doors. Johnny built his doors up quite quick within a few months, within, I don't know, 3 to 6 months in that time frame, give or take.
Yeah, something like that.
I built mine up within about 9 months using 8 different methods. These 8 different methods are something that we teach inside of our Discord, which helps anybody, whether you have good credit, bad credit, no credit, a little bit amount of money. You do need some money. Can't come into real estate with absolutely no money and expect to, have a 100-unit portfolio. That's not the way the game works. But you can get into properties for as little as a few thousand down. We do have students who have done that, whether it's their primary, residence or it's an investment property. Ultimately, coming into this game, Section 8 is something we push more towards our students because it's less of a risk. So we do follow 3 main rules. One of the rules is quantity versus quality. In Section 8, you're going to get paid for the zip code as well as your bedroom count. So whether you have a property that's for sale for $150,000 and you buy that, or you buy a property for $60,000, as long as they both pass the Section 8 inspection checklist, which is mainly safety reasoning, as long as you can pass that, you're both going to get the same exact rent. So why go out and buy a $150,000 property when a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 property can make you the same amount of money? The main difference on that is your taxes, mortgage, and insurance. We want to keep that way below, within 10 or 15% below your cash flow. So if my tax, mortgage, and insurance is $400 and my cash flow is $500, that's going to keep me at like a 60 income, 40 for debt. And that's a revolving number, and that's going to control your debt to income as well. So that's definitely a way that you want to buy if you're going to be using loans. Another one we do is our risk factor, which is our risk versus reward. I want the least amount of risk as possible with the best amount of reward. And again, we go back to the same point of what we did. My risk is $400 a month for my taxes, mortgage, and insurance, and my reward is going to be $500 a month in positive cash flow in my pocket. And that'll lead us to our third one, which is controlling your DTI, which is your debt to income ratio, which will pretty much allow you unlimited debt. So when you hear the phrase, the banks stop you at 10 loans, it's true. It is. But it's true for the typical person that buys a $200,000, $300,000 property and cash flows $500, $600. You're going to be leveraged on that 4 or 5 times. Meaning, if I have a 100-unit portfolio, at least 50, 55 of those units cannot be cash flowing, and I'm still staying afloat. And the banks love, and I mean love to see that. Johnny, you want to throw anything in on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a way to bring yourself into a perspective. So, like for both of us, we live in New York. We're not buying here, unless it's like a flip or something like that. We're not going to buy here because of the prices of the homes, because we can take that down payment and buy 5 or 6 homes somewhere else, as opposed to buying one home here. So, it's really, I guess you could say you got to learn to get out of your comfort zone, because we're both in New York. So our comfort zone, I mean, we've talked about it ourselves. Our comfort zone is here. So if we, I like being here. So I like doing things here, but I had to get out of my comfort zone to be able to make that cash flow happen, that, those prices work for me. I don't want to spend $150,000 on a down payment and only make $500. I'd rather spend $10,000 on a down payment and make the $500, because then I can do it 10 times and not worry about the bank coming in and saying, hey, you're over leveraged now. You can't have any more money. You can't do this. You can't do that. We don't have that problem because of the way we buy. And that's a huge benefit of learning this way of buying property.
Well said, Johnny. Well said. I think the audience must like that as well. Audience, do you like that? I love it. I love it. Well said. So ultimately, in real estate, there's quite a few things that you really want to take into perspective when you're buying a property, especially when you're going to Section 8. The first one is, of course, the area. You want to make sure that it's not in a crime-related area. That's probably one of the most important things. If you're buying, with shootings within a few blocks of you, that's no good. Just because they're Section 8 tenants doesn't mean that they want to live in a bad neighborhood, right? So that's a major part of this. The other one is the size of the property, and this is for you. The size of the property, I like to keep under 1,200 square feet. I won't go above 1,500 for a single-family property. And, the bedroom count, the higher you go, the more you're going to make, of course. But one bathroom, guys. One bathroom is all you need. It costs about $6,000, $7,000 to renovate a bathroom. We'll call it $5,000 to $7,000, so $6,000 to renovate a bathroom. If you have 3 bathrooms, that's $18,000 every 10 to 15 years. It may not impact if you have a few properties, but once you're to establish and build up, it's going to make a gigantic difference. We strip these houses down to the bare minimum. I'm talking mechanics. You don't have to have HVAC. You don't need air conditioning. You only need a heating source, whether it's oil, whether it's natural gas, propane, electric. You have to have a heating source, but you don't have to have any air conditioning. Nobody really goes to sleep forever over not having air conditioning. But heat, yes, you can go to sleep forever over not having heat. The other part is I try to maximize my properties as goes, the use of it. So if I want to buy a duplex, I have 2 families in one property, and instead of making $550 cash flow, I can be making $800 cash flow. So you could do this, with a single family, with a duplex, with a quadruplex, and you can go even higher if you want. Johnny has one that's, I believe, 8 units, 9 units?
Yeah, I have an 8 unit, yeah.
Yeah, so myself, I don't go above quadruplexes. I don't go any bigger than that because I just don't want to deal with the headaches of having all, Section 8 tenants on one property. Another thing that you're going to look for when you're buying these properties, of course, just like when you're buying anything else, is the mechanics of a property. Always get an inspection on the property. That's extremely, extremely important. You don't need a survey. Realistically, you don't. Get an inspection on the property. Get title insurance when you're doing that as well. But for now, let's jump back into exactly what you're looking for. So we have an area that's not crime, not in a major city because the price point is going to be too high. On a single family property, I like to shop $75,000 and under. On a duplex, about $120,000 and under. And a quadruplex, $220,000 and under. The reason why that is I'll match up the FMR rates, which is the rental rates, what you're going to get paid through HUD, which is the Federalized Subsidized Program for Section 8. And I want to be able to get $1,100, $1,200, $1,300, even $1,400, $1,500 for these properties that I'm spending $70,000 to $100,000 for. So again, by doing that, you're controlling those 3 main factors that we had: risk versus reward, controlling your DTI, as well as the quantity over quality. So in these properties, you don't have to go above and beyond. You don't have to have quartz or granite countertops. You don't have to have tile in the house. Just strictly LVP throughout the entire house is fine. You don't have to put expensive stainless steel appliances. You will not make any extra money for any of that stuff. The only things that you do need in that house is a refrigerator and a stove. That's it. Don't have a washer and dryer unless you want to rent it to the tenant for $50 a unit, totaling $100 extra a month. You can do that as long as it's in the contract on Section 8. Just the bare necessities, guys. Bare minimum is what you want to have in these properties, and you want to be able to pass the safety inspection checklist through Section 8. Some of the things that they look for, Johnny, if you want to jump in on this with me, they look for anything that's a safety hazard, plumbing issues, electrical issues, GFIs within 18 to 24 inches of any water source. That depends on the state or county. That your outlets, all the 3-prong outlets, that they are grounded. Your roof is good, your flooring's good. Look, a lot of it is just common sense of what they're looking for when it comes to Section 8. Johnny, you want to add some things to that?
Yeah, it's just really when Section 8 comes in, they're just really looking for dangers, right? So like railings, little things that would cause a hazard to like children and stuff like that. So that's really the basis of what Section 8 is looking at. They don't want to see exposed wires. They don't want to see exposed heating pipes. They don't want to see, I think it's more than 3 steps without a railing. They don't want to see little things like that that could cause, trip and fall hazards, shock hazards, burn hazards, things like that. The windows, stuff like that, all of them have to open, right? So in case of an emergency, that's an exit point. So they have to open. They can't be painted shut. Little tiny things that, you as a homeowner should want in your properties anyway. I know I go a little above and beyond sometimes with some of my properties. I make sure that, it's clean, it's this, it's that. They have everything that they would possibly need to be able to live. Like Jay, I don't put in AC. If they want to buy a window unit, they can do that. I'm not going to do it because if it breaks, then it's on me. But other than that, it's really just a secondary inspection pretty much, where they come in and they look over your property and make sure that it's okay, and they approve you, and then you're ready to go. I mean, I know sometimes, in our group, we a lot of people bring pictures and stuff to me because I have a keen eye, because I was a contractor prior to investing in real estate. So I was able to kind of pinpoint little things, that could be problems. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be a contractor to pinpoint problems. You just have to have an eye for safety issues, stuff like that. Make sure the roof's not leaking. Make sure, the faucet isn't next to a electrical outlet, or pipes aren't running, with wires wrapped around them, things like that. I mean, it's really common sense stuff. But other than that, I mean, I know a lot of people get kind of scared when they were like, oh, Section 8 inspection. It's really not that bad. If you got a home inspection prior to buying your home, prior to buying any home, even your personal home, you can send him a list of stuff that needs to be checked out as well, so he can take a quick look at it and make sure it'll pass that inspection as well. So you'll know right as you buy the property what needs to be done or not, doesn't need to be done prior to getting into the property. You'll know if it's too much just by giving the home inspector, which you would use anyway to buy a property, a list of things to look for. Say, hey, can you take a look at this for me? I'm looking to turn this into a Section 8 property. I want to know if this is okay. And he'll do that. They'll do that. So, and they'll put it in the home inspection report. So it's very easy to figure things out in that front.
100% well said, Johnny. So some of the things we're going to go into as well is where to buy these properties. So some of the best properties to buy in the Section 8 are going to be, states and counties such as St. Louis. You have Ohio, you have Alabama, you have Pennsylvania. Johnny, I know you own some in Mississippi.
Yep.
We'll leave you with just those few for now. The rest we share with the people in our Discord. Why those areas? Because the medium income is low enough to where you could buy houses that are affordable, and your FMR, which is your rental rates through Section 8, will be more than enough to pay your taxes, mortgage, insurance, utilities, maintenance, vacancy, repair, property management, the whole 9 yards, and still be able to put $400, $500, $600 a month into your pocket, positive cash flow. And we can show you exactly what to do with that money to really minimize your risk and to minimize the amount of money that you're paying in taxes. So let's talk a little bit about the Section 8 tenant. So there is a stigma out there, and to be frank with you, this stigma is BS in my opinion, and a lot of opinions out there. A Section 8 tenant is people just like us. The only thing is they have a huge benefit of only having to pay anywhere from $0 to $100 and change, $200 a month to have their own house. How many people do you know would throw that away? Because if they make a mistake and we evict them, most likely, depending on what happened in the scenario and situation, they will be kicked off of the Section 8 program. By doing that, they can reapply depending on the situation, but you can be waiting 3, 4, 5 years, or like in New York, 10 years, California, 13 years to get back on the waiting list just to get a property again. Why would you throw that away? You wouldn't. But of course, there are people out there that would, whether it's Section 8 or non-Section 8. That's why the vetting process is extremely important. I'm going to get a little bit into the vetting process. The vetting process that you really want to do with a Section 8 tenant, I like to check their previous and current employer, even contact their employer. I like to see that they're coming to work. If they took off a day or two, it's just a day or two. If they took off time, it's not 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row. I check their credit, and yes, 90% plus of the times their credit is not great, but I look for inconsistencies. I want to see where, they didn't miss payments for 6 months straight, because that means they're not going to pay me for 6 months straight, right? So I want to see if they miss 1 or 2 payments a year, that's fine, but they're staggered out, they're not in a row. Another thing is their current and their past residence. I want to contact the prior landlord where they live, and I actually want to be able to go to their property, or have my team go to their property, my boots on the ground, go to their property and see how they're keeping up that property, because that's how they're going to keep up your property. Some other things that I like to look for in the people is the income base. I want my tenants to pay as little as possible. Now, Section 8 will pay anywhere from 70% up to 100%. I like tenants that pay less than 10%. In case they don't pay me, I'm out $100. Great. Rarely ever happens. I have rarely had an issue with a Section 8 tenant not pay me, because they don't want to lose this beautiful thing that they have of living in a house, or a multifamily property for nickels and dimes, because that's exactly what they're getting out of this. They're having a home, the American dream, for just a couple $100 or nothing, absolutely for free. So the whole stigma where Section 8 tenants are the worst is not true. I've had tenants in my properties that paid me close to $4,000 a month, and they were the most difficult tenants I've ever had in New York. They would call me for light bulbs. I mean, the silliest things they would call me for. My Section 8 tenants don't bother us unless it's absolutely needed. And, when it comes to plumbing a toilet, somebody who pays you $2,000-$3,000 a month, they're not going to do it. They're gonna have you hire somebody and a plumber come over and cost you $200 to plunge a toilet. A Section 8 tenant's not going to do that. It's extremely rare. If a major appliance breaks, or there's a hazard, yes, they'll contact my property management. My property management will bring out my handyman or my contractor, depending on the situation. But that's pretty much it. And let's get a little bit into time consuming. So again, 41 properties, about 2.5 hours a month I put into work. At the end of the month, I get, a maintenance sheet of what had to be done, what was done. I know every single month, just by using TurboTenant, who's paying me, who's not paying me, or who's late on payment, which it's very rare that it goes past 5 days, because 5 days is an eviction. If you are late more than 5 days, I'll send you an eviction notice. Now, 9 out of 10 times that eviction notice will scare them in, and they'll pay me, plus they'll pay me the late fee. But even going to that point is so rare, and it just really doesn't happen much, because again, these people are not going to throw away a $50 or $100 a month payment for a house. Who would? You would have to be crazy to do that. Johnny, you want to add anything into that?
No, I mean, I agree with you 110% on the these people don't want to ruin their chances of finding shelter and a home, so they won't. 90% of the times, unless there's some kind of crazy circumstances, they won't really do anything to the landlord or the property that would subject them to losing their benefits in Subject 8. So, I'm sorry, Section 8. So it's still early.
Johnny's got Subject 2 on his mind, I guess.
Right. No, it was funny. I just had an email that popped up on my thing that said Subject 2 deal in somewhere, and I was just like, what the hell is that? I didn't do anything with Subject 2, and that's why it was up here. But yeah, it was they don't want to ruin their
chance of happiness and true freedom, actually not owning it, but renting a full house. Nobody knows if they own it or not. They get to live this life, the American dream that everybody wants, to have a house. Yes, they don't own it, but they get to live in the house for, again.
They can stay for however long they want, as long as they meet the Section 8 criteria. They can stay as long as they want. So some tenants will stay there for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
As opposed to like people that don't do Section 8. They're in the properties for a year or two, whatever, and then the landlord decides, hey, I'm going to raise the rent. Well, for a regular renter, that might be a problem. So they'll take off, they'll leave, they'll go try to find something like they were paying before. For Section 8, if I want to raise the rent as a Section 8 landlord, I write a raise to the state. And they either approve it or they don't. So, that's more where you're becoming, it's a little more structured in that sense. So you don't have people, and every time somebody leaves your property, right? So you have to do a turnover. So you have to paint, you have to do little things, clean, get in there. It costs you money every time. So I'd rather have a Section 8 tenant that's in there for 10 or 15 years because they don't want to leave, as opposed to a regular renter that's going to stay 1, 2, maybe 5 years if I'm lucky. So, I mean, that's another thing too. Your overhead kind of drops down a little bit using Section 8 because, you know, they tend to stay a little bit longer. So you're not doing as many, you know, flips and stuff. My computer is acting crazy, Jay. I don't know what's going on.
100% is Johnny. Johnny, you're okay. We're not affected with your computer on this side, but 100% what Johnny was saying is absolutely true. And if there is a rent raise increase, we're, you know, bringing that through the HUD program, which localizes PHA. We're applying for that there. And, you know, just from 2023 to 2024, in one of the bigger areas where I invest most of my properties, I went up $185 a door. So let's just say you had 10 doors. You just went up $185 per door a month. That's $1,850 a month, $1,850 a month just for a rent raise increase. So when you're out there and you're saying, you know, oh, do I want to go Section 8 or non-Section 8? Well, let me put it for you this way. When you go Section 8, you're guaranteed the rental portions directly from the government, right? You're guaranteed to have a tenant in there that is 90+% of that rent is going to be paid through the government. Okay. You are going to get a tenant that may not be the type of tenant you want, but this tenant is going to stay 5 times, 10 times longer than any other tenant because it's tough for them to bounce around from property to property. One, it's costly. It's not cost effective for them to do it. You know how much it costs to move, $1,000, $1,500, $3,000, depending on how much stuff that you have. It can be very expensive. You know, so a Section 8 tenant is going to be great with that. And on top of that, you're guaranteed rent raise increases with the market every single year. So if we have a bad year and you know, the rents go down in Section 8, your rents aren't going to go down. So let's say in 2022, you were getting $1,300. 2023, they went down to $1,200. Guess what? You're still going to get $1,300. As long as you don't ask for a rent raise increase, you are 100% going to get the same rent that you were getting. So as your mortgage is being paid down, as you're putting cash flow directly in your pocket, as you're building up more equity in that property where you could strip it out, refi it, or HELOC and buy more properties, your rents are going up consistently each year with the market. Yes, that can happen with a non-Section 8 tenant, but the difference is when it goes up $100 a month in rent, the tenant usually is 5 or 10%. They're only paying an extra $5, $10 a month compared to the state paying you $90, $95 a month more. So you're not really affecting the tenant compared to a non-Section 8 tenant who would have to feel and need that whole $100 a month. So it's not a big deal for them. You can easily get rent raise increases. You can easily find properties in about 9 or 10 states with a medium income on these properties where you can buy single family properties for 70, 75 and under. I own duplexes that I bought for under 100,000. I own quadplexes I bought for 200 and under. And it's not a dime a dozen. There are thousands and thousands of them out there. Thousands. We're going to teach you how to.
My cheapest property, I think 22,000. I paid for my cheapest one.
It's crazy, and you're making, you know, the fair market rate rents. So yeah, imagine buying a property that costs you what, 4,000 and change down, 5,000 and change with closing. And what are you making off that property, Johnny?
Which one? The one I spent 20 grand on?
Yeah.
Oh, just under 600. I think it's like 560.
Yeah, so your cash on cash return is phenomenal.
Ridiculous. Yeah, it's crazy.
Cash on cash return, guys, ultimately what I like is, you know, anything 50%, which is getting my money back in a return under 2 years. For newer investors, you want to be at that 33 to 35% mark and under, meaning a down payment or any light rehab you have to do, you're getting that money back in less than 3 years. From there is completely profit. Or you can, you know, buy a distressed property, rehab that property, cash out refi after you put a tenant in it, strip the equity out and use that to get yourself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more properties. I've done this and gotten myself 2, 3, 4 more properties out of doing cash out refis on properties. Yes, it's like doing a flip on the property. The only difference is you're not walking away with 40 grand in profit. You're walking away with multiple free properties if you do it right. And we'll teach you how to do it in this Discord. So again, guys, this is, you know, I think, in my opinion, one of the best things to do as a real estate investor is to be a Section 8 landlord. I've been in real estate over 7 years, and Section 8 is definitely the way I'm going, and it's the way I'm going to go for probably the rest of my investment life, because I know that my properties are going to continue to be paid down. I know that the government's going to pay me the rental portions. I know that I'm protected by, PHA, by HUD for the federal subsidized program, that if the tenant acts up or anything, they're being watched by them. Yes, I have to deal with an inspection once a year and in the beginning before I bring that tenant in, but that's okay with me because it keeps both sides on their toes. When I hear Section 8 landlords or slumlords, that's the biggest joke to me because we're the only landlords who have to get an inspection to have tenants move in. So I don't see how that's possible. But I'm going to end it on that for this podcast here. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Johnny, you have anything last you want to throw in there?
No, that's it, man. I think we covered everything. All the bases are covered.
Awesome. All right. Again, guys, we do go deep into this in the Investor Circle. That's www.oneinvestorcircle.com, or you could jump on my TikTok at Investor Circle to get the link to our link tree if you want our products, and I'll put a link inside of this video as well. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.